I was inspired by Mavis Sunbeam 471 on Instagram to do this mandala or Mandela, depending on how you pronounce it. So, thanks for clicking on my video. If you enjoy it, please hit the like button down below. If you got any questions, suggestions, or comments, please leave them in the comment section down below, and please subscribe to my channel. First thing I did was I laid out a big roll of bulletin board paper. I had some red on hand, which was good because it made it so that I didn't have to paint in quite as much. The second thing that I did was I created a compass out of two pieces of poster board that I taped together. We have some safety compasses that we use a lot that are little plastic pieces, and you put the clear plastic where you want it and you hold on to it wherever the center of your paper is, and then you put your pencil in a hole and you make it go around in a circle. Well, this is basically the same thing, only I made it out of poster board. Any kind of rigid paper, if you're doing them small, cardstock would do. You cut them into strips, but it needs to be kind of rigid. I've seen them use string, but I just use these pieces of poster board. I then tape my paper down so it would be nice and flat because it was all wrinkled up. I put a eraser underneath my paper, right underneath where the thumbtack's going to go. I did this because I needed a place to put the thumbtack so that it wouldn't move, and I couldn't pin it into the table. I mean, I guess if you've got a wooden table, you could do that. My table had a Formica top, so I couldn't put the pin in the table. So I just put it into this eraser right here. Just like that. I then proceeded to draw several circles. I don't remember how many I drew offhand, but I just drew probably 6 circles. And they weren't complete circles, obviously, they were half circles. I drew 6 half circles from one side to the other. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I drew 8 circles to start with. I then segmented up the very first and smallest circle with a smaller compass. That's one of the little orange compasses that I was talking about. And so I made little segments, and then I drew some lines that radiate out. So just as some guidelines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think I had 6 guidelines, maybe 12, because I think I put some in between each one of those. So about 12 guidelines that I then used to create my patterns around in this circle. I had seen some other information about mandalas online, and it had a bunch of patterns that you could use that I created just kind of on the spur of the moment. Didn't think about it a whole lot, maybe a little bit in between each shape. I thought, what would look best, but for the most part, I just drew triangles and curves and lines and dots and circles, and I just kept adding to it as I went out further and further. Then I'd go back some and do some other stuff in closer to the middle. I also used a Q-tip to make some dots at one point. I liked the dots, but I didn't do a whole lot of those. And then I enlisted the help of several of my students to help me paint it in. My camera went dead, so I missed part of the painting in process, but most of my students were real helpful, and they wanted to paint on it, which is exciting because I plan on using this project next week, and they're going to do their own. I think I'll put them in groups of 2 or 3. We just started filling it in. I did have another student mix up the various colors for me. I didn't use any colors that were straight from the tube. I let her pick out all the colors, and I trusted her judgment. And then we just started coloring them in. Occasionally, I would ask a student, what color do you think would go good here? Or what color do you think would go good there? And I think they did a really good job of choosing colors. I think the most important thing, though, is not to have any two colors totally side by side, and not to use any colors straight out of the bucket, straight out of the tube. There were some places where I just added some color, whether or not there was a space to fill in, made some little half circles with the color there, and didn't necessarily fill in the entire spot. This part was probably the toughest, painting around all of the little stamen of the flower there. That's what you call it. I spent most of the day working on this, in between helping students with their own work back and forth. So it took me probably 3 or 4 hours to do the entire thing, beginning to end. If you look real close, you'll see some loops on the very outside that I really didn't like. So when I just cut right through those, cut those out of the image. I didn't like this part, and I think it really helped to have kind of a curve and a point, a curve and a point, a curve and a point. We then put a piece of tape on the end of each loop and each corner all the way around, and then several pieces of tape across the top. We took it outside of the hallway and we hung it up. That's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please hit subscribe if you enjoyed it. Hit like. If you got any questions or comments, leave them down below for me, please. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.